It's week 3 of ARTFIGHT, and while I felt like I got a lot of pieces done this week, it was a bit of a slower week for ARTFIGHT in general. But, you know, if you don't know what ARTFIGHT is, vampires, werewolves, battles, original characters, points. Good job. No, but seriously, the link is in the description. It's going to do a way better job explaining why this month has been absolute chaos for me, and I'm not going to explain with the number of brain cells that I have right now, because what I did use my brain cells on this week was making cute artworks of everybody's original characters, and looking at the cute artwork that was sent back to me, which as always will be displayed at the end of the video. The first character of the week is a character that I pretty much bookmarked way before ARTFIGHT even started. I unfortunately unbookmarked the character already, so I don't have receipts for that claim, but I had been lurking on DragonDoodle78's ARTFIGHT page trying to decide which character would be both in and out of my comfort zone, and I landed on this character, Elliot. Before I move on to Elliot's description, allow me to honorarily mention some of the other character designs belonging to DragonDoodle78 that I really just liked. This includes Victoria, a Mae, which is a creature that can manipulate water out of objects that have or have had water in them, and also Jessica Wayland, who was the runner-up to being the character that I drew for this video, and who is also on the front cover of DragonDoodle's brand new webtoon, Sunshine and Swords. Not sponsored, I just know as much as the next person how much work it is to make a dream come true, so, you know, just doing my best to help out a fellow very talented artist. Back to this little fellow, this little guy. They're an intersex demon, being half demon and half human, and as a result of his funky combination of genetics, he has a tail, and half of their face is a deep gray purple. This mark extends down their neck and also to the fingertips on the right side. Another key part of Elliot's character design is their grimoire, which is kept securely by their thigh in a bag, literally never leaving Elliot's side for anything, as this book is very important to their sorcery ability to funnel and influence dark energy into a usable state of magic. I had quite a bit of fun with this piece if you can't tell, but also as a result of this pose I end up doing canvas flipping, which isn't something I particularly like to do in speed draws, but I was physically unable to just freehand a face sideways. I have muscle memory for drawing, and it's not for drawing faces sideways, but this falling pose is just me channeling some very fun anime boy montage vibes into the drawing, but it is also very key to what ended up being the name for this revenge piece. This year I named all of my pieces instead of just writing the characters' names like I did last year, which absolutely no shame in doing that. I don't know, something about this year just made me want to write the first thing that came to mind. But I called this piece Falling Out of Your Comfort Zone. In general, Elliot is a very shy person. They tend to shy away from others and keep to themselves. This is because his demonic traits have often scared those who come near. In this drawing, Elliot is falling back and he is arching towards the camera, smiling and brushing his hair out of his face, showing his skin variation, which I felt like would be out of his comfort zone. Consequently, the title of the piece. Another really cool little detail that Dragon expressed to me about this character is that each demon born is associated with one of the 7 deadly sins. Elliot is tied to wrath, and I'm really interested to see how that progresses in Dragon's story Sunshine and Swords, but, well, I guess I could be totally wrong in assuming that Elliot is part of the collection of characters. The only reason I did so was because the characters sheet that Elliot is on has this sort of height chart thing that includes other characters from Sunshine and Swords, but, you know, maybe it's just all of Dragon's characters together. I don't know. I guess I'm not 100% positive. I shouldn't assume or falsely advertise, but the whole being tied to a 7 deadly sins is really cool. I really liked working on this unusual pose for Elliot. It was a nice change of pace and a good challenge, especially since most of my characters and drawings for ARTFIGHT in general have all been in relatively stationary poses, and I was looking for that chance to switch it up. This drawing took about 3.5 hours, and I'm pretty pleased with the fact that I was able to work with such a different pose situation than I'm used to and still be able to render the drawing in the same amount of time that I usually take. And that's the thing about participating in challenges like ARTFIGHT and Inktober, it's that making that many drawings in quick succession, even though it feels like sometimes I'm doing so much in so little time and I worry that I might not be achieving the quality of art that I want to achieve, it's a whole lot of learning that is happening happening in 1 month in that condensed amount of time. It's a really great way to force yourself to practice, to study, and participating in group challenges like Inktober or ARTFIGHT is really nice because it takes at least one part of the thinking process out of the equation. For Inktober, you obviously have the prompt list, and for ARTFIGHT, you have a lot less character design work that needs to be done since you're drawing off of other people's reference sheets. It's a great time, but speaking of Inktober, I probably won't be participating this year, as fun as it is, but that is very much in the depths of Ren Fair season, so everything upcoming is going to be crazy amounts of cosplay and costuming work, which I am simultaneously very excited and very terrified about. But that is Dragondoodle78's character, Elliot. I had a ton of fun drawing them. Thank you, Dragon, so much for your support and also for the Calliope drawing that you did, and just all around, you're such a kind and supportive person. Also, I'm oddly satisfied with how the blending of the purple tones into the pale skin worked so well for the face, as so much so that this color palette really just decided the tones for the rest of the drawing I did in this week, so let's get into that. Drawing number 2 for this video is a little different from my usual work, and by a little I mean I'm not drawing a single character. I am also using a completely different rendering style. I'm using a very limited color palette, and I also start with several thumbnails at the top of the canvas, and thumbnailing is just not something I do very often. So the deal with this drawing is that I was going to just do a render of one of the characters belonging to user Born Stinky, who drew me a super cool IO a while ago, but instead I went down the rabbit hole of Born Stinky's projects outside of ARTFIGHT and found out that a lot of the characters that are featured on his page are actually character sheets for an animated series that Born Stinky, or rather Ben Howard, and his team are working on called Island Escape. And I immediately decided that it was time to not do something within my usual capabilities and instead make a little pretend movie poster for their project. This was very inspired by just dozens of minimalist limited color palette movie posters that are out there, both official and unofficial, because I've never drawn a movie poster before, so I wanted to make sure I was getting text placement and color shifts and all that correct. I was going to do with orange at first, but you know what? After drawing Elliot, I really enjoyed the color scheme, and so I thought to myself, let's just do all purple this week, and here we are. The 3 characters that are on this raft from left to right are Zach, Simon, and Andre. Zach McFinley is one of the main characters in the slapstick animated series Island Escape Odyssey, and he's a Scottish fellow with just an incredible ability to step on every single metaphorical rake possible. Andre Fontenot is another main character and the since childhood best friend of Zach. Andre is a much more quiet and reserved fellow, a simple man with simple needs, and a man with genuine love for his best buddy Zach. And Andre is probably my favorite character. In the center, we have Simon Lark, a narcissistic billionaire who hired Zach and Andre to be his sky butlers on his plane, which, as fate would have it for a plane with Zach McFinley on it, crashes onto an island. Simon's body did not survive the crash, and Simon had to perform emergency surgery on himself, and consequently, he is now his usual self, but with the body of a monkey. It's a really fun project that the team is working on. If you'd like to check it out, as with all the artists that are mentioned in this video, their information is in the description, as well as a link to Island Escape Odyssey's pilot episode. They have a team of 5 people, all of which deserve recognition for being able to put something like this together on their own. Even if slapstick comedy is not really your cup of tea, it's a lot of work to make this long of a fully colored, fully animated video, complete with intro and outro music, with just 5 people. Big props to the team, that's incredible. Back to my drawing, you can see that it has a lot of layers, and it's kind of like working with individual paper cutouts, shading each one and adding a lot of little gradient layers. I also added a layer of Ben Day dots to create a sense of a continuous border around the image, and of course, last but not least, the title and credits. You can see in red I've used the mirror tool to create a little guideline of where the center of the canvas is, and I'm just lining up, nudging the words around until I'm happy. And that was a very satisfying part of the process. I was going to add a date, but I didn't like the way the numbers looked with the fonts, so instead I added the names of the 2 additional artists that worked on the project, and that's Island Escape Odyssey, and another purple project under my belt. I was so happy to create this piece. It really worked my brain, and it was also fun to try something new, so thank you for the opportunity, Ben Howard and team, and best of luck with the future of Island Escape. Okay, so the last purple piece of this week was actually me distinctly looking for someone purple to draw, and I landed on, lo and behold, another demon-esque character, Anyama, who often goes by Yama, a character belonging to SpaghettiBete, who drew me these amazing extra pieces. I actually did play around with colors quite a bit. Yama is a little more silvery gray than she is purple, which I do feel bad about pushing a little hard to just suit my desires to have an all-purple collection of characters this week, but I think we can maybe make an argument for saturation. Maybe SpaghettiBete actually has a full purple and green character called the Queen of Poisons that I was going to draw, but I saw that they had already received a couple of attacks for that character, and I sometimes just like to go for lesser drawn characters because I don't know, I pack bond with the little drawings and I start to feel kind of sorry, more sorry than I think is reasonable for a real human lady to be feeling for a little drawing, but you know, I just feel bad for the ones that maybe have not had as many or any attacks during art fight, so that's why I ended up choosing Anyama over the Queen of Poisons. And that's kind of the bad part of art fight. It really brings out the fear of missing out in me, and I bookmark all these characters at the start. I'm so heartbroken that I can't just sit down and draw all of them, because turns out maintaining my standard of living involves making enough money to afford groceries, but also making like 2 or 3 brand new cosplays every year, which is a very expensive hobby, and unfortunately I'm still quite far away from having my art maintain that standard of living for me, but hey, a girl can dream. All that to say is that I have so many characters bookmarked still for art fight. I'm so sad that I've not been able to get to all of them, but besides that, I'm still pretty proud of myself for having done as many as I did, and for having kept up with art fight even throughout the rest of the month. I'm at 10 drawings this year, which is twice as many as I had at the end of last year, and werewolves are killing it, but last year Wither was doing the same, and suddenly at the end of the month the tides turned, so you never know, vampires might catch up. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just again really proud of myself, really proud of anyone who participated in art fight at all, whether it was 1 drawing or 100 drawings. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of, and I'm saying all this like it's the end and there's not still a whole week plus of art fight left of attacks to be made, so be prepared, I'm coming for you. Back to Anyama, I took a lot of inspiration from exactly 2 places, the first being Holizna from Critical Role's Campaign 3, and the second being The Nightmare Before Christmas. Something about the color choices, the cool skin tones, and the bright fur or maybe feather-lined clothing really makes me think of that particular art style. And then of course I thought of Holizna because of SpaghettiBete's little description note that Anyama is very friendly but a little creepy, and it made me think of how Holizna insists that she's fun scary, not scary scary, and it was just a cute parallel. Anyama is a little bit of a tragedy, as many good characters are. In Spaghetti's world, Anyama's original home was a large trench where other demon folks live. At some point, someone from the above world outside of the trench visited, and Anyama grew very close to this person, the only person that she grew close to in fact. And when it was time for said friend to leave the trench, Yama was faced with a difficult decision. If Yama stayed in the trench, she would get to keep her demon wings, but lose her only friend. But if she left the trench, she would be able to see the rest of the world as well as stay with this friend. This motivation, in addition to Yama's own curiosity and yearning to see the outside and above world, caused her to give up her wings and become an outcast in the society she once called home. But that was all centuries ago. Now, with her above world friend long since passed, she lives a quiet, cozy life deep in the forest, surrounded by books, using her magic to heal those who manage to find her. But knowing how her curiosity has gotten the better of her in her past, she's terrified to venture far past the confines of her little secret forest home. And that's the story of Anyama and how she lost her wings. And I didn't know the story before I finished the drawing, but by chance I decided to include a red string of fate in the final drawing, partially just as a nod towards my personal love of Holizna, but it also sort of matched the story of 2 people destined to meet across unforgivable circumstances, and I just think it's beautiful how that worked out. And that's the last drawing of the trio of drawings featured in this week's video. Oops, all purple edition. Maybe this is the effects of having drank the McDonald's Grimace shake, just a delayed reaction setting in, I guess. But whatever it is, this was super fun. I got to try a new art style, do more flexible poses, and of course, the best part, make really fun art and support other really great artists out there. Check them out, links in the description. It's cheap, it's easy, support someone trying to follow their dreams. And now it's time for the attacks I received in this week's montage. Visage. We only got 2 attacks, but honestly I'm surprised I got any at all being this late in the month. So first up is the very first animated attack that I have ever received, which is crazy. I'm so stoked about this drawing done by SO-ChaoticsquidGod, whose characters I featured in the first week of my art fight drawings I did this year. Genuinely, everything about this drawing makes me so happy. I love seeing the girls together. Thank you for being you, so supportive, and every time I look at this, I just start grinning. Our next drawing is another Minamika entry from 4S1JH, who drew the epic Merilith from last week. Again, I'm always so happy that Minamika is such a well-loved character. She was my very first TTRPG character ever, and it means so much to me that people still love her. Also, I just have to say the color theory ability of 4S1JH is incredible. The lighting and reflections and implied shapes, they're always so satisfying for me to look at. And thus concludes week 3 of Art Fight Oops All Purple. We have one more full week left and a little bit of the following week, and I do want to do a 5th art fight video. We'll see if I can squeeze in enough drawings before the end of the month to do 5 videos, but who knows? Not me.